He declared that sacrifices must be made to appease the angered spirits. The people listened intently as the chief priest listed the items that was required for the sacrifice. He listed 21 female goats, 21 hens, 21 alligator peppers, 21 baskets of yams, 21 gallons of palm oils, 21 bottles of schnapps, and 21 kola nuts. In the peaceful land of Obodo, there once lived a mighty king named King Obi. He ruled with strength and wisdom, and his kingdom prospered under his reign. King Obi was loved and respected by all, for he was not only a fearless warrior, but also a just ruler. But one day, King Obi passed away, leaving behind a legacy of courage and honor. His son, Afam, was next in line to the throne. Afam was a kind-hearted prince who had been groomed from a young age to lead his people. With the support of his beloved wife, Uju, Afam ascended to the throne as the new king of Obodo. As the kingdom rejoiced in their new ruler, King Afam vowed to uphold the values of justice and fairness that his father had instilled in him. Queen Uju stood by his side, her heart filled with pride and anticipation for the bright future ahead. Months passed, and the kingdom eagerly awaited the arrival of the royal heir. When Queen Uju gave birth to a bouncing baby boy, the entire kingdom erupted in celebration. The young prince was to be the future of Obodo, carrying on his father's legacy with pride. But tragedy struck when the prince fell ill and passed away just 3 weeks after his birth. The kingdom was plunged into mourning, and Queen Uju's heart shattered with grief. She wept bitterly for the loss of her son, her sorrow echoing throughout the land. King Afam stood strong beside his grieving wife, offering her comfort and solace in the darkest hour. "Do not lose hope, my love," he whispered, his voice filled with determination. "The gods will bless us with another son, and our kingdom will thrive once more," King Afam said. Queen Uju clung to her husband's words, finding solace in his unwavering faith and true to his promise. She soon found herself with child once again. Her womb was swelling with new life. The kingdom held its breath in anticipation, praying fervently for the safe arrival of the royal heir. With the arrival of the new prince, the kingdom of Obodo buzzed with excitement. Queen Uju's heart overflowed with joy as she cradled her newborn son in her arms, marveling at his tiny features. The people of Obodo rejoiced, eagerly awaiting the chance to welcome their future ruler into the world. King Afam, filled with hope for his kingdom's future, sought guidance from the chief priest to ensure the safety and prosperity of his son. The chief priest, adorned in a ceremonial robe, gazed into the flames of the sacred fire, seeking guidance from the gods. After a solemn ceremony, the chief priest emerged with a smile on his face. "Fear not, your majesty," he assured King Afam. "The gods have spoken, and they have decreed that Prince's future is bright. He shall bring honor and prosperity to the kingdom of Obodo." Relieved by the chief priest's words, King Afam and Queen Uju held their son close, grateful for the blessing that was bestowed upon them by the gods. The kingdom continued to celebrate, filled with hope and anticipation for the days to come. But their joy was short-lived, for tragedy soon struck the village of Obodo once again. This time, it was not within the walls of the royal palace, but out in the farms and the forest that sustained the kingdom. Reports flooded in from the farmers, their faces etched with sorrow as they recounted the devastation that had befallen their crops. Farms that were once lush and bountiful now lay barren and lifeless, their once promising harvest reduced to dust. King Afam listened with a heavy heart as the farmers described their struggles, their livelihoods threatened by an unseen force. The villagers gathered at the palace, their voice raised in anguish as they pleaded for their king's help. Days turned into weeks, and the situation grew dearer with each passing moment. Not only were the crops failing, but the animals of the forest were also falling victims to the mysterious blight. Hunters returned empty-handed, their once thriving hunting grounds now devoid of life. Desperate for answers, King Afam returned to the chief prince again, seeking guidance in this time of crisis. But to his dismay, the chief priest could only offer solace in his encouragement, for he said that the gods remained silent in the face of this calamity. The villagers looked to their king with hope, praying for a solution to their woes. But as the days dragged on and the situation grew worse, fear and uncertainty gripped the hearts of the people of Obodo. As the days passed, the once vibrant streams of Obodo began to run dry, adding to the kingdom's woes. The people of Obodo were forced to travel farther and farther just to fetch water for their daily needs, their burdens growing heavier with each passing day. King Afam felt the weight of his people's suffering pressing down upon him, and he turned to his beloved wife, Queen Uju, for counsel. She suggested that, seeking the guidance of another chief priest, but King Afam's pride stood in the way. He was hesitant to admit that his chosen advisor had failed him. Days turned into weeks, and still the kingdom of Obodo languished in the grip of despair. The crops withered, the animals grew thin, and the once lively village fell silent under the oppressive weight of the blight. Then one day, the chief priest arrived at the palace with the news from the gods. His voice solemn, he declared that sacrifices must be made to appease the angered spirits. The people listened intently as the chief priest listed the items that was required for the sacrifice. He listed 21 female goats, 21 hens, 21 alligator peppers, 21 baskets of yams, 21 gallons of palm oils, 21 bottles of schnapps, and 21 kola nuts. With determination, the people of Obodo gathered the necessary offerings and presented them to the gods, their hearts heavy with hope and desperation. The chief priest assured them that in 21 days' time, their troubles would be over and the kingdom would be restored to its former glory. For 3 weeks, the people of Obodo waited with bated breath, clinging to the promise of the chief priest. But when the appointed day arrived, their hopes were shattered once again. As the sun rose on the 21st day, the people of Obodo awoke to a scene of horror. Children lay sick and dying in their beds, their once bright eyes dimmed with fever. The village was plunged into mourning as the cries of grief echoed through the community. King Afam, his heart heavy with despair, summoned the chief priest to the palace once again. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice trembling with emotions. The chief priest bowed his head solemnly. "The gods have rejected our sacrifice," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the sounds of sorrow. "We have angered them, and now we have unleashed their wrath upon us." King Afam's shoulders slumped in defeat as the weight of his failure crushed him. The cries of his people filled the air, a haunting reminder of his inability to protect them. Days later, King Afam and Queen Uju woke up to find their son, the prince, dead. King Afam grappled with the weight of his son's death and the suffering of his people. Queen Uju's grief threatened to consume her, and only the watchful eyes of the palace guards and her devoted maidens prevented her from carrying out her desperate threats. The village of Obodo descended further into chaos as hunger and despair gripped the hearts of its inhabitants. King Afam knew that he could no longer ignore his wife's suggestion. With a heavy heart, he sent word to the chief priest of Obanka Kingdom, hoping that he alone can provide answers they solely desperately sought. When the chief priest of Obanka arrived at the palace, his presence brought a glimmer of hope to the weary hearts of King Afam and Queen Uju. The chief priest of Obanka Kingdom, known for his wisdom and connection to the gods, wasted no time in consulting the gods for guidance. In a solemn ceremony, the chief priest communed with the spirits, his voice echoing through the palace halls as he sought answers to the kingdom's woes. And then, in a voice filled with authority, he revealed a long-buried secret that had haunted the kingdom for years. During the reign of King Obi, Afam's father, a forbidden event had occurred that had unleashed a curse upon the kingdom of Obodo. The chief priest recounted the tale of King Obi's transgressions, of how he had forced himself upon an orphan maiden in the moment of reckless desire, after he was just crowned the winner of a battle. The maiden, bearing the child of King Obi, had placed a curse upon the kingdom before her death, invoking the wrath of the gods upon the kingdom of Obodo. So the suffering that had befallen the kingdom was not merely a coincidence, but the consequence of a grave injustice committed by its former king. The palace was thrown into turmoil as the truth of their ancestors' action came into light. King Afam's heart burned with shame and sorrow as he realized the extent of the pain his family's action had caused. Amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope. The chief priest spoke of the rituals and offerings that could appease the angered gods, of a path to forgiveness and healing for the kingdom of Obodo. As the words of the chief priest of Obanka kingdom echoed through the halls of the palace, King Afam's heart sank with despair. How could he be asked to relinquish his throne for the sins of his father, King Obi? It seemed unjust, unfathomable, yet the chief priest of Obanka kingdom decree left him no choice but to comply, just to save the people of Obodo kingdom. With heavy hearts, King Afam and Queen Uju made the agonizing decision to step down from their positions of power. The people of Obodo watched in stunned silence as their beloved king and queen surrounded their crowns, their faces etched with sorrow and shame. The palace guards were dispatched on a mission to find the son of the orphaned maiden, who is the rightful heir to the throne of Obodo kingdom. In a distant village, they found him, Ikenna, a strong, humble man who had lived his life unaware of his royal lineage. Ikenna and his wife were brought to the palace of Obodo kingdom, where they listened in disbelief as the events that had unfolded in their absence were revealed to them. Despite the pain and betrayal they felt, Ikenna found it in his heart to forgive those who had wronged him, for he understood that the sins of the past could not be undone. In the days that followed, Ikenna was crowned the new king of Obodo kingdom, his heart heavy with the weight of responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. But with the support of his people and the guidance of the chief priest of Obanka, he vowed to rule with justice and integrity, to honor the legacy of his ancestors and bring peace to the troubled kingdom of Obodo. As King Ikenna took his place upon the throne, a sense of calm descended upon the kingdom of Obodo. The people rejoiced, grateful for the return of their rightful ruler and the promise of a brighter future ahead. The chief priest of Obanka also made it known that the royalty of the kingdom must never return to the lineage of King Afam again. But for King Afam and Uju, their journey was far from over. Unable to bear the shame and disgrace that had befallen their family, they made the difficult decision to leave the kingdom of Obodo behind, seeking solace in a distant land unknown to them. As the sun set on the kingdom of Obodo, a new chapter began. Under the wise rule of King Ikenna, peace was restored and the glory of Obodo was restored. The plants started growing and the animals regained their weight. The hunters came back rejoicing and grateful for the rule of King Ikenna that had brought them so much fortune back to the land of Obodo. The story of the kingdom of Obodo teaches us that accountability, forgiveness, justice, redemption, and selfless leadership are essential for building a harmonious society. It emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for one's action, forgiving others despite past wrongs, ruling with fairness and integrity. We must acknowledge our faults and prioritize the needs of the community over personal or selfless interests. Thanks for watching this captivating story on African stories and folktales. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories. Thank you.